The fourth popular misconception, I think, is that saving and investing means financial sacrifice. Well, the reality is having debt and having bankruptcy looming, or having massive amounts of credit card debt, or not saving, or not having a plan for the future, or wondering how you're going to pay for your house or your education or your child's education. These are things that create financial problems. Making a small contribution to a saving and investing plan actually can lead to financial freedom, and it really is the opposite of financial sacrifice. And there are also so many incentives that governments give us to incentivize us to save, and so many benefits from a tax perspective to save, that it actually doesn't really mean financial sacrifice. Financial sacrifice really comes about when we have financial problems, and that's why saving and investing is so compelling, because $1 today will be more tomorrow. Certainly $1 saved in a tax incentivized plan can be more than $1 even today. If it's saved in a tax efficient manner, for example through a 401k plan where we don't pay tax on the money that we get. So instead of, let's say we're in a 30% tax bracket, just to make it easy, instead of getting $70 in our pocket, we end up with $100 in our retirement plan. So I can't see how that's a financial sacrifice, being able to have $100 that we can look at and spend in the future. If we had spent those $70 or gone into debt for a $70, that to me is financial sacrifice and creating a burden for ourselves. And the last popular misconception that I want to address is that one doesn't need to know about saving and investing because you can ask a professional. Well, there are a few things that I wanted to say about that. The first thing is, when it comes to saving and investing, everyone needs to develop their own plan. We're all in different positions. Some people are 20, some are 25, some are 30, some are 60, some are 50, some have 5 kids, some have 2 kids, some have 1 kid, some have no children, some will never have children perhaps. Some want to buy a house next year, some want to buy a house in 10 years, and the reality is we all need to think about our financial plan, and this isn't a burden, but we all need to think about where we want to go with our finances, ideally to be able to set up some kind of a system. And the other way of doing it is just to say, I'm going to save whatever I possibly can, which is also a pretty effective system, and then where you end up is where you end up with. But in general, it tends to be a good idea to define some kind of objective to work towards, because we anchor ourselves to that, and chances of getting there are much higher when we actually define the goal that we're trying to work towards. So it's very personal, and although a financial advisor can help us along the way, it's not necessarily a given that that we're not better off by doing part of it ourselves, because we know our objectives better, and at some point we're certainly going to have a look inward and try and think about our financial objectives and where we want to go. The second thing is, without any financial knowledge, a large part of the world around us passes us by. Not a day goes by where the newspaper, even most likely on the front page of a normal white newspaper, as opposed to the financial newspapers, the Financial Times, which is orange, or in Europe, or if, redo that last section. The fifth popular misconception I'd like to address is that you can get a professional to do it. Well, the first thing is we all need to look inward and define our financial plan for ourselves to a large extent, and we can do a lot of that ourselves. And that is something that we will have to do with a financial advisor or by ourselves. And I think, because it's something that we need to think about, the best way of doing it is to maybe start doing it by ourselves, because A, we're not taking up anyone else's time and being charged for it, and B, we can really have moments of insight when we think about where we want to end up with. And we want to think about where we want to end up with because we can anchor ourselves to that, and when we define goals we tend to have a better likelihood of getting to them. The second thing is that not a day goes by where finance, stock markets, indices, interest rates, Fed, government spending, fiscal spending, monetary policy aren't discussed in great detail in the newspapers or on TV or on the radio. And not having any knowledge about this subject really means that we're basically prepared to say, what, even though this may be 50% of what's important out there, or whatever percentage one might believe, I'm prepared to just let it pass me by because it's just not important, money's not important, and that's absolutely insane in my opinion. And so one is missing a huge part of what's going on in the world around us, and that is not just something that goes around us today, but it's been going on around us for hundreds of years. Furthermore, and lastly, without knowledge of financial matters, we are not in a position to take intelligent financial decisions on our own. And I don't think that we're in as good a position to have an intelligent discussion with a financial advisor. The subject is, first of all, in my opinion, too important just to hand over to a financial advisor. But secondly, even if we do have a financial advisor, we want to be in a position to assess their competencies, to be able to trust them. And how do you develop trust? By understanding each other. And when the financial advisor is speaking a different language than we are, then that level of trust is difficult to build up, or can be erroneously put in place and can lead to disasters. So it's a good idea, even if we do use a financial advisor, to develop some knowledge ourselves. In my opinion, the subject is too important for so many reasons just to ignore.